Today, I want to invite you to join me in an exploration about boundaries. This is a topic that has been super relevant for me lately, and something that I find myself circling back to over and over at different times in my own personal development and in the creation of my business at different levels. So it's my hope that it's interesting and impactful for you to join me in this conversation. Here's how it's going to go. Over the next couple of weeks, we're going to deep dive together about boundaries. Right? So we'll start today by looking at what are boundaries exactly. And then in the coming weeks, we'll explore what are the things that get in the way of us setting or holding boundaries. And then we'll move on to look at what's the cost in our life of not having those in place. And then why do we keep doing it that way when we know it doesn't work? And then we'll start to look at what are some practices or some practical things we can do to put stronger, healthier boundaries in place. And you'll walk away with some actionable things to start creating more healthy boundaries in your life. Sound good? All right, so that's the plan. Let's get started. Let's begin by looking at what are boundaries. I really like Brené Brown's work, if you're not familiar with it. She's a professor and researcher based out of Houston, Texas, and she's done a lot of work around shame and resiliency and vulnerability. You probably know her from her TED Talk that went viral called The Power of Vulnerability, I think is what it's called. Super great work that she does. And she recently wrote about boundaries. This is very simple to say, but a boundary is, this is okay, this is not okay. And very simply put, that makes sense, right? So when it comes to our actual lives or our businesses, it's about drawing a line. It's about being clear about what we are or we are not willing to tolerate, engage in, put up with, be available for, all of that. It's being clear and setting a boundary or a line or parameter to say, this doesn't work for me. That is not okay with me. This, however, is okay with me. Yes, this will work. Right? So by its very definition, the boundary is the line that says where something is or isn't okay with us. So to begin this week off, this exploration, I would like to invite you to just become aware. What are the boundaries that already feel very clear for you in your life? I'm sure if you look in your relationships, those closest with you, perhaps with your family members, or if you look at the way that you operate in work, the things that you do inside of your business, if you're your own business owner, there's already, I'm sure, some places where it's very clear, this works for me, this is okay with me, or this is not okay with me. And so just begin by appreciating where the boundaries are clear and set and what those provide for you. And then we'll also begin to look at where are there boundaries not present for us? Where do things get a little murky, right? I know I personally have some examples of that, and I'll share with you coming up around what that's been like for me and what I've done to what I've done to begin creating those clear boundaries and the impacts of that. So we'll begin by looking there. Where are there boundaries already in place, and where are there not? And I look forward to seeing what you discover. Feel free to respond to this email and let me know. Here's where the boundaries exist. Here's where they don't. I'd love to hear from you as you go along with me in this exploration.